why was Trotsky exiled, and what kind of a life did he in exile?
Well, first he had really two major exiles, and you're referring to now in the 1920s under Stalin. He was obviously exiled under the Tsar twice.
Right.
But in 1927, he was, by then he was expelled from the Communist Party, from the Bolshevik Party. And Stalin exiled him to Alma-Ata in what's Kazakhstan today, deep in Central Asia, very much cut off. But Stalin made a fundamental strategic mistake. He allowed Trotsky to take his archive with him in 3 large wooden crates. And Trotsky, for a time from Alma-Ata, was able to correspond with followers. But then Stalin cut that off. And then in 1929, Trotsky was expelled from the Soviet Union altogether. And he went with his wife, and he went with his son Lev, his oldest of his 2 boys. His younger son Sergei decided to stay in the country. He was much less political. He thought he'd be safe, which was a tragic decision. So now he's sent to Turkey. He stays in Turkey for several years, a very productive time, actually. He writes his memoir, he writes his history of the Russian Revolution. He contributes articles to the New York Times. He has a wide correspondence. He's able to earn enough money as a writer and a journalist to support a household of translators and secretaries and guards. The Turkish government is very helpful. They give him protection. They give him travel papers. And then after a time, he's able to move to France. It took enormous effort. The French don't treat him so well. They're afraid of him. And he actually has to live in a very isolated way in France, more or less. And then the French kick him out and send him to Norway. He's able to get refuge in Norway. And there again, he's exiled. He's held under very onerous conditions, not in jail, but under more or less a kind of house arrest. And then Diego Rivera intervenes, and his wife Frida Kahlo intervene with the Mexican government, which is a left-wing government, and they extend an invitation to Trotsky. So the end of 1936, he leaves on an oil trammer, an oil troller, he and his wife, Natalia Sedova, and they go to Mexico, and they arrive in January 1937. So it's one long exile of different stages until he ends up in Mexico in January of 1937. He lives there for about 3.5 years before, of course, he's eventually killed.